Good morning, children. We'll start with Introductory Macroeconomics, Section A for Standard 12. To begin with, let's first understand what does the term macroeconomics mean. Macro word has been derived from Greek word makros, M-A-K-R-O-S, makros, which means large. Based on this, we can define what is macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is that branch of economics which studies economic issues or economic problems at the level of economy as a whole. Children, you have learned at +1 level microeconomics, and you have seen that microeconomics deals with individual economic units. Now, as you proceed with Standard 12, you are going to learn about macroeconomics, and at this stage, it is essential that you understand the actual difference between what microeconomics is and what macroeconomics is. Based on the basis of study, the kind of study that is taken up under microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies problems and choices at the level of individuals. As you have seen in 11th standard, that you have studied about consumers' equilibrium, producers' equilibrium, demand, supply, determination of price. So all these were studies which were related to an individual economic unit. Whereas when we talk about microeconomics, you are going to study problems of scarcity and choices at the level of an economy as a whole. You are going to study about macroeconomics, which means you're going to study about studies of economic issues or economic problems at the level of economy as a whole. Next, on the basis of economic variables, children, the variables or the topic of study are broadly classified under micro and macro. All the studies of economics are broadly classified under the head of microeconomic studies and macroeconomic studies. So microeconomic studies variables such as a consumer, producer, supply and demand. Whereas macroeconomics uses variables such as aggregate demand, aggregate, entire economy's demand, aggregate supply, entire economy supply. So such variables are used in macro and microeconomics. On the basis of aggregation, children, when you talk about microeconomics definition, it states it is a study of individual economic unit. Does that mean there is no level of aggregation involved? No, there is some degree of aggregation involved even in microeconomics. For example, under microeconomics, you talk about a firm. All the firms, say cotton producing firms, make an industry, cotton industry. So there is an aggregation and cotton industry is a part of microeconomics. But when you talk about macroeconomics, you talk about all the industries in an economy, be it cotton, be it steel, be it glass, all the industries together make up macroeconomics. So the degree of aggregation exists at the micro level also and at the macro level also, but at macro level the aggregation is of a higher level. Finally, children, is there any relationship between micro and macroeconomics? Yes. Children, both micro and macroeconomics are simply two ways of looking at the same thing. It is because the behavior of the economy as a whole is dependent on the behavior of the unit that makes it up. For example, aggregate demand of the economy is nothing but the sum total of demand of all individual units that makes the economy. Similarly, national income is a sum total of income of all the residents of the economy. An economist has beautifully summed up the relationship between the two. And that is, I quote, microeconomics sees and examines the trees, while macroeconomics sees and analyzes the forest. So now we start with the first unit of macroeconomics. national income and related aggregates. Children, we have seen that national income is a part of macroeconomics, and macroeconomics is defined as that branch of economics which studies economic issues or economic problems at the level of an economy as a whole. So, as we venture in the world of national income, which is the most important part of macroeconomics, we will be dealing with some concepts of national income to understand it better. National income is defined as the sum total of factor incomes earned by normal residents of a country during the period of an accounting year, or sum of the values of all final goods and services produced in an economy by the residents in an accounting year. To understand the definition, we need to know what is a good, what is an economic territory, what are final goods, and so on. Goods are defined as any physical object, natural or man-made, or services rendered that demand price in the market. It is also called as economic goods. So here, what we need to understand is that good in economics covers up not only physical objects but also services. As a teacher provides her service, a doctor treats his patients, all would be categorized as goods. Goods can further be classified as capital goods and consumption goods. So what is the basis on which these goods are classified? Consumption goods are those goods which are purchased or own produced for satisfaction of wants. They may be own produced or they may be purchased. But if these goods are able to satisfy the wants, they are called as consumption goods. Consumer goods are again classified as durables and non-durables. So what are durable consumption goods? As the word durable itself suggests, durable meaning something that can be used for a long period of time. So all those consumption goods which can be used over a period of time, for example, washing machine, television, bike, are all part of durable consumption goods. Whereas non-durable, as the word itself suggests, which is not more durable, it cannot be used over a period of time. It gets completely used up when you use that commodity, are non-durable consumption goods. Example is electricity. We use and it gets completely used up. So it's not durable. You cannot use say 100 watt of electricity time and again. Once you use it, that's over. Or say food, biscuits, paste, bread, fruits, such kinds of consumption goods are called as non-durable consumption goods. The consumption goods may also be classified as semi-durable consumption goods and non-material consumption goods or service. Talking about semi-durable consumption goods, they are those goods which can be used for a period of 1 year or slightly more. These goods are not of very high value. Example, clothes, crockery are the examples of semi-durable goods. Services are those non-material goods which directly satisfy human wants. A few examples of services are services of doctor, lawyer, etc. Here is capital goods. Goods capable of being used for producing other goods are called as capital goods. They are used to generate income and are purchased by production units like factories, commercial institutions, etc. Some examples of capital goods are buildings, machines, equipment, vehicles, etc. Such goods, when self-produced, are also capital goods. Now, these capital goods can also be classified as durables and non-durables. Buildings, machinery, which provide services over time to the production units, are some examples of durable capital goods. Stocks of raw material are examples of non-durables. These are also called single-use capital goods. The point to be noted here is, in classifying goods as consumption goods and capital goods, what is important is not the goods, but to the use to which the goods is to be put. A car purchased by a family is a consumption good, but when purchased by a factory is a capital good. Next is investment. What is investment? It is addition made to the stock of capital during a period. It is also called as capital formation. Investments are of two types, fixed investment and stock investment. Investment in fixed capital, that is durables, are called fixed investment, and investment in stock of raw material, semi-finished goods and finished goods are called stock investment. Children, capital and investment are related to each other. Capital and investment both compose of capital goods but are different in the accounting sense. Production units purchase new capital goods every year. These go on accumulating year after year. The accumulated stock of capital goods at the beginning of the year is called capital, but the capital goods added to this capital during the year is called investment. For example, capital of a firm at the beginning of the financial year is say 10 lakhs and at the end of the year it's 11 lakhs. This addition of rupees 1 lakh during the year is investment. The beginning of the year capital is rupees 10 lakh and at the end of the year capital is rupees 11 lakh. Next comes intermediate and final goods. The difference between them is very essential to know because only the values of final goods are added in national income. The intermediate goods, if added, will lead to the problem of double counting and thus overvaluation of national income. This problem of double counting can be overcome if we take into account only the value of final goods. Intermediate products refers to those goods and services which are purchased during the year by one production unit from other production unit and completely used up or resold during the same year. This definition has two important points. First, it has to be purchased by one production unit from another production unit and used up or resold during the same year, that is the year of purchase. Used up means completely transformed into other products. For example, if a carpenter purchases wood worth rupees say 10,000 and uses it to make furniture worth rupees 20,000, here wood has been completely used in making chairs. So wood is intermediate product. Now what is the meaning of resold? Usually traders buy goods and sell them without making any alterations. This is what the shopkeepers in a neighborhood do. The goods like bread, butter, sugar, toothpaste, toothbrush purchased by the grocer are all intermediate products for them because they have purchased the goods for resale. Another example, as we can see on the screen, is about a baker who buys salt. He uses the salt to make bread. Salt is an intermediate good because that gets used up in making bread. Another example, the baker makes cupcakes. He uses sugar, milk, butter, which are intermediate goods to make the cupcakes. The sugar, milk gets used up in making the cupcakes, so they are intermediate goods. Final goods are those goods and services which are purchased or own produced for the purpose of consumption and investment. Here again there are two important characteristics of final goods. The good is either used for consumption or investment. Consumption means goods being purchased for satisfaction of human wants. It can cover up both durable and non-durable. By investment, we mean purchases of durable producer goods. Children, again an important point to be noted is that no product is always final or always intermediate. A good or a service may be intermediate for one purchaser and final for another. For example, purchase of bread, when purchased by a household, it is a final good, and when purchased by a restaurant owner, it's an intermediate good because the restaurant owner is going to use the bread in making sandwiches, which he is going to use it for selling purpose. Similarly, the services of a self-employed mechanic, when purchased by a household, is a final product, but when purchased by a factory, it is an intermediate product. So finally, children, it is essential to note that no good or service is final or intermediate in itself. It all depends on whether it is purchased for own use or for resale. Let's take some examples. A machine purchased for installation in a factory. Is it a final good or intermediate good? Yes, it is a final product because expenditure on machine is investment. Expenditure. Next is fees paid to a lawyer by a producer. It is an intermediate expenditure because the producer buys the services of lawyer for completely using in producing goods and services during sale year. So we are done for today, children. Thanks.